Hello and welcome to Mindscapes, our series of conversations with men and women whose work, visions and ideas defined contemporary India. My guest this evening is a talented artist, a sculptor, whose artistic vision offers penetrating insights into contemporary life and society. His work has been exhibited at museums around the world. I'm delighted to welcome Radhakrishnan, better known as Radha. Radha, tell us, why are you a sculptor? It's sort of one of the more, shall I say, seemingly less accessible art forms to the common man, if I could use that phrase.
Yeah, initially I took to painting actually as a young boy, and inspired of my uncle who is a painter, and belonged to a school of painting which was popular in Kerala, that was Ravi Verma School of Art. And so I have this strong background of sort of growing with the atmosphere of making art.
Painting.
Yes, painting. Then I took to painting at the age of 8, I would say, and worked with him for almost 10 years, and that I was 18. And I somehow realized the limitations. I mean, you get to know what it can really take me to. So I understand that this is not the place, and this is not the kind of criteria that you are looking with in terms of your work. And so I had to choose to get out of Kerala, and knew, and of course by reading about Ramkinkar in Shantiniketan, and the Shantiniketan and the Tagore and the institution, definitely it's an ideal situation for an art student or an artist. So reached there you had to work on paintings, sculptures and lithographs and craft materials or whatever. Then you had to decide to be a sculptor, for the reason that it was Ramkinkar, Professor Shabir Roy Chaudhary, who really understood the kind of works that I have done initially there as a student. And I also could realize by working first time with materials like clay or plaster of Paris or whatever, that my temperament really permits me to be a sculptor than a painter.
So when you say temperament, what do you mean? What aspect of your personality, your inclination, your sensibility nudges you towards being a sculptor?
Temperament in the sense that you want to have the result. And also I remember that carving a stone and not having any idea in mind, but just still chiseling it off and get to the form which is hidden inside, and the kind of speed that I had developed to get it out.
Now, is the form hidden in the stone, or is it sort of hidden inside yourself? Somehow.
Yeah, you are right. Because when you say the stone, the medium means it's very much the moment that happens from within. It is not outside you.
So were you drawn to sculpture because it had a quality of three-dimensionality, solidity, enduring, calm, takes time to unfold, different from the romantic image we have of a frenzied painter sort of standing before his canvas and completing things in one outpouring of emotion, feeling.
Yeah, it's true, because sculpture definitely takes its real space. I mean, when you deal with the painting or anything which is two-dimensional, that you are dealing with the pictorial space, and here, well, you can really, and also I always exhibit and I always write that please touch. I mean, like most of the art products are not really, artworks are not meant to be touched or anything, but the very concept of getting into the space, because you are creating a structured space, and also the kind of time that, you really get to experience it, and in relation to the kind of nature of the expression, that experience and the expression, naturally it's linked. And probably today I cannot think of anything which I cannot touch.
Well, I think you've talked about space, experience and expression, and I think we should share with our viewers that this sculpture, which sort of forms the theme and the logo and the symbol of our program, is yours. In what ways does this manifest it?
See, all the sculptures do start with the structure which I told you about, and like here, it's the globe. And so based on that structure, you were really trying to sort of relate to be a circular, and also to sort of what you call it, connecting people together, also to have the kind of scale that what we are seeing, it's meant to be monumental, because the very monumentality itself is a preconceived thing, because it's expected to be, well, one could really walk in and sort of climb up and experiencing in terms of, that it has a kind of a very collective view, and also to go close and to see a kind of a particular way of looking at it. And then, well, I suppose it's the basic idea was to connect people together, to make it into a global structure.
And this central figure looking up at the heavens.
Yeah.
Is this an agony or an ecstasy?
Yeah, this is, see, I really feel, I mean, most of the pieces, it's, I'm described by, I mean, many also with their way of looking at my sculptures, that there is a celebration of a joy in the whole exercise. But, like some of the sculptures where you can see the figures are very precariously placed, but still, even within that, which is also a reflection of the, social problems, and even within that, still there's a music being played.
Do you feel resentful that you have to sometimes, or people like me ask you questions to explain your sculpture? Shouldn't it just speak for itself?
I suppose so, because it has, like, there is something that it adds to in one way or other. Like you look at a Tagore's painting, that you look at the, the woman that he has portrayed. It's sometimes it's good to know about Tagore and who is that woman to look at the painting better. So it really adds another dimension to the piece of art.
Are you sometimes surprised at the interpretations that people ascribe to your work? I mean, it's not what you had thought of or intended, but what they see is something completely different and new.
Which is very common, which is very, very naturally happening.
Is that gratifying, or do you despair? Well, that's not what I intended, but
yeah.
They see
I remember a sculpture which was like kind of, there were two figures. One was having a spear in the hand and like kind of and stopping herself. Nobody else is stopping her. So the posture was kept like that, and then she had this the weapon in her hand, and somebody really written about it that it's a javelin thrower. And I really had the title, which was a kind goddess, the figure who really stops herself from using it. And the kind of interpretation that really leads to much more confusions, and it has nothing to do with the artist sometimes, what they really think, and
did you feel good about it, or did you feel despairing that gosh, I was trying to do this and this person sees something different?
But most of the cases you ignore, and if I get to see them, then I would really explain it with a good smile, and I don't really get into, because I can understand that sculpture is a medium. I mean, you need to have certain kind of a sensibility to really get to the spirit of it. And of course, one expects in a country like India, where there's a great tradition of, I would say the greatest tradition of sculptures, with the temple sculptures and all, to really get to know the core of what it is all about. But we lost that because we don't have many sculptures kept outside. We have more statues recent times. So how one get exposed to sort of, or how to develop a way of looking at things. So, well, it takes its own time. It's happening slowly here.
But our sort of historically, our sort of traditions of art have been imitative, both in painting and sculpture, and your work is sort of obviously is diverging from that. What sense of roots do you feel in the Indian heritage in your work? I don't mean thematically, but in the forms and the structures.
I feel very strongly about the links between the traditional sculptures of the country, or whether it is an Indian but of course, since I am very familiar with the Indian traditional sculptures, and like I really have, you can see even in this small maquette which we have here, that the kind of elongation that I have used, the kind of distortions in terms of the kind in relation to the kind of ideal reality that most of the temple sculptures do have. Like I studied a lot of Amaravati sculptures for the sake for developing my language. I look at many temple sites and their sculptures, and that inspires me a lot.
It's been said of you that the thematic inspiration for your work is very Indian,
Yeah.
But the lines and forms are, I think, to quote a critic, a pakka Western.
Yeah.
Would you accept that?
Yes, the sculptures, because what we studied is Indian. We studied Western art, even the Indian art colleges. Of course, I would also say that anything which is contemporary is not Western. We have contemporary Indian art. Of course, with the development, with the understanding that what happened in relation to the art developments and the movements, we are very much aware of that.
With sort of increasing globalization and travel and a shrinking world, in what ways do you think that is impacting art?
Yeah, I would really think in terms of, because since I work with the human, the sensibilities which are definitely commonly shared, and also so many people also could really realize, like when I had my last exhibition in Paris in '93, people could relate that, oh, well, this is not a French artist, but well, he could be somewhere from Asia. There are certain kind of establishment. Even in my absence, some people really talked about it and written about it and things like that. But
what are the elements of this sort of Indian, Asian sensibility in contemporary sculpture? What sort of makes it look or feel that it's Asian?
See, in terms of contemporary Indian sculpture, it starts definitely with Ram Kinkar, who was my teacher for years in Shantiniketan, and I don't know whether before that there was anything which was contemporary or whether it was anything Indian, or like when D.P. Roy Chaudhary, we have this big sculpture which is there in this Dundee March, or the Triumph of Labour, which is kept in the Marina Beach or wherever. So there you could really see the Western copy by an Indian master. They never went for that innovative with the understanding about the Indian tradition or anything as such. But I think Ram Kinkar really did the change.
In what ways?
You could see him with the kind of subjects chosen, also with the kind of establishing the kind of structure which is absolutely non-academic in relation to the Western context. Also, the kind of anatomy which he had expressed, which was very independent of the sculpture, not in relation to the existing, reality of the human beings. So, I would really say that he established a language independent of sculpture, not in relation to the kind of the model that you look at. You have the Santal family, the harvester, the very famous. That there you can see the structure, very much, with a very concrete existence with the root from the base, and then the kind of forms that he has definitely developed from the Indian traditional forms. So it was a mixture of the two. The techniques are definitely Western, that he worked on bronze. Most of these techniques are really, even though bronze is a traditional material, the techniques are different today what we are practicing.
In what ways are the techniques different now in working with bronze?
We do the bronze sculptures today with the understanding, with the kind of techniques which are practiced in West. Because you take Chola bronze or Nataraja bronzes, which are very, very popular here. And there, the whole attitude was that they had a kind of a structure initially made in clay, and on the top they worked with wax or any other material which you can take it out by firing or whatever. So you have the structure being made first, but we don't do that. We make the sculpture first, and then we have the core which is coming inside much later. So the whole technique is that we see the whole sculpture either done in clay and then transferring into plaster Paris and to the beeswax and then bronze. But there it's only two stage, from directly with the wax, and the core is initially started with, and then when they pour the bronze into that, you have the core still staying within the sculpture.
So when you're working in terms of sort of relationship to your material, so you're not really getting a sort of a tactile relationship with bronze. It's still sort of being visualized as to what it would look in bronze. And so your relationship is really with wax or with clay.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what you
That's the most original work when we do. Like this sculpture, also because you are really thinking of what you call it, you are visualizing it, that it is possible that it is to be casted in bronze, because this piece cannot stand in any other material. You see, you have very minimum support to the ground, and this, what you call it, this web that you have created cannot stand. It's not a what you call it. It's not an extracted thing. It's a kind of a built-up process, that like a building, bricks by bricks, that you really develop starting from nothing, and conceiving it for the medium bronze.
Political systems and ideologies have had sort of sometimes turbulent attitudes and relationships to different arts. And there has been this great debate on the role of art, as Marx saw it, to the role of art in capitalist societies. What do you think that in a developing country like ours, with problems and suffering and poverty, what role, what function, what purpose does art, and particularly your kind of art, have?
Yeah, I remember sometime, I really make an attempt to make sculptures which are very direct kind of a statement and addressing these problems posed or whatever. Like 50 years of independence, I was told to do a small sculpture, and there I did a box with many people on the top, one on the top and things like that. Very, one could also look at the kind of a structure I was trying to look at within the chaos. And instead of calling a freedom struggle or something, I thought, we are free to struggle. So that was probably even in that gaining that freedom to struggle. Also, there is a lot of optimistic way of looking at things. Also, like it's like a mask. That you have the mask, which may be the constant one, and that can depict, various expressions, joy and sorrows, but the mask remains the same.
Would you say that art for a community that is struggling for survival is an indulgence, is a luxury? Why is it important?
It is very important in terms of developing a sensible being, in the sense that one needs to be very sensitive in a situation like this. It's easy to go otherwise, but I think art helps a lot.
To what degree in your work are you inspired, or do you draw upon the social external predicament, and to what degree do you draw upon your own sort of anguish and pain and questioning and a need for catharsis in physical form?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the moment that happens from within is expressed, but the moment that happens within also is highly related from what's happening outside. So you don't really look for visual references and just depict that. I'm not on that trip. I think it's your understanding, your experiences, all that leads to a kind of a collective fund of your freedom, knowledge, that's definitely used as the reference material for starting a job.
A lot of sculpture is used to sort of, shall we say, decorate or fill public spaces, external public spaces, and sculpture is expensive to own and to produce, and much of it presumably is commissioned work.
Yeah.
So when you are commissioned something, how do you relate to working to order, as it were, and working as an artist to your own creative needs or to fulfill those creative impulses? How do the two coexist?
Yeah, it does work in a way like that. Like, there are not very many open sculptures here in a country like India, but which I really was sort of very keen for last few years to work on open air sculptures where the public comes in contact and things like that. A couple of years back, I was told by the Travel House, which is an ITC body, to install a sculpture, and of course I had the brief that it is a travel house, and this is the building, so you please think of something which is in relation to that. and with this high-tech traveling experience that the traveling, the experience by the people, but I really thought of the subject which is a rickshaw puller, where I could bring a human element of, because, and also I was I strongly felt since I was in Calcutta, and I thought that image could probably be brought to the people, and where that basic human drama could be, expressed in a public space where people get to see them, and it's also kept on a higher platform where anybody on the road also can get to see this. So that's where, so you have the brief that it is a travel house, but you still have the freedom to sort of to choose what it, to come with the kind of an idea which anybody from any level can experience.
When you're producing a piece of sculpture,
Yeah.
what is your peak experience? What is your moment of the real high, or the highest of the highs?
Every stage has its own changes happening, like what is possible in clay you are trying to explore, and then once it is transferred to plaster of Paris, because what is not possible in clay is again, you are doing plaster, and then you have the wax, again that's a liquid malleable medium, and there you take, say, petrol and you take out the highlights, which probably you cannot do that on wax or whatever. So various stages definitely you are trying to do, and then oh no, I should have done that in clay, maybe I'm so like sort of lots of what you call it, that encounter, that's happening, and ultimately, of course, once the wax is casted, these are the three stages probably I enjoy the most.
And when it's finally frozen in bronze,
Yeah.
in a huge exterior sculpture, and you look at it, do you sometimes feel that maybe I should have done that a little differently? It's too late, but it's frozen.
I don't look back. I really go and do another piece, and that's what it is easy for me. No, there are problems, but that is there because nothing is complete. Because you really feel that it's a very frustrating feeling that you have done something which, according to your, according to what you knew about, it never happens. So I think it's a kind of okay. Now it's next, I don't normally see, I am not very particular about where it is going to be kept, because like in France I have been working for so many years, that's the same park, so more than 25 sculptures are installed in the same place. The site doesn't matter to me much, because I think the sculpture, and wherever it is placed, it finds its own roots, it grows there, and it has its strength. So I think the sculpture is completed within my studio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when is the sculpture born for you? When the commission comes, when life's moment happens, or
no, I don't do commission jobs.
Uh-huh.
I do mostly like in the kind of the way I was working with the person in France, that anything I do, even he himself gets a shock when he opens the box. So he doesn't know what he's getting. So I think the kind of clients that I really had were very cooperative in relation to, or where they were prepared to sort of to get the shock at the last moment, that they don't really sit on my shoulder and dictate this is what, there's no briefing as such, because I do my creative work, finds a place, somewhere or anywhere.
So when do you know what you're making?
It's an ongoing process of sculpting.
Unfolding.
Yeah, of course I don't know whether I have started making sculptures. It is like it's so interrelated with one to another and conceptually related. You cannot just make a kind of a statement which you make today and next day. It's so different and contradicting. So it has an ongoing structural link, complementary in terms of its approach. But it, at the same time, maybe after a decade when you look back, so many changes that it has happened, but it's not really always so conscious.
Where do you see yourself as an artist and as a sculptor in the contemporary Indian art context?
I was talking to you about the kind of concepts that Ramkinkar started and he developed, and I really see that I could take, at least I wanted to take it further, and I could really understand the strength of his pieces, the greatness of his sculptures. I'm working so many years, because initially when you go as a student to a master, you know that he's a great master, but you don't know what makes him great, what makes his pieces so strong. So, I think that realization probably is happening and happened, and then you work in a direction which is possible further.
You're an increasingly applauded, recognized, appreciated sculptor. What do you think are the factors, the qualities that make your work significant, special, and strong, and intense?
I think that the structure of the sculpture and the structure of the human, the structure of the thought process, structure of the life process, all that is probably sort of put together into a sculpture, because you don't start with the contours, you start with the very inherent structure, which really takes to relate with people, and I suppose that's one of the way I really do it, and if it contributes to any kind of an appreciation, or it leads to any appreciation, I would really say yes, it's happening.
Well, Radha, thank you very much. That's been a great
Thank
pleasure.
you so much.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you, Rajiv.